It's all about how you explain this to the agent, because a lot of them don't understand any of this. They don't know what subject to is. They don't know what creative financing is. And so it's new to them. So if you don't present it the right way, or if they're confused, they're not going to be motivated to present it to the seller.
For a limited time, you can get a free copy of Jerry Norton's Deal Analyzer software, which runs the numbers on any property for you in seconds. Get it now at mydealanalyzer.com.
How would you present a sub two to an agent on market? Well, I had one hang up on me because I told him how were we gonna pay his commission, but I told him it wasn't gonna be 3 or possibly 6%, and he just hung up on me.
Yeah, so you don't ever want to present something that's going to not pay the agent their commission. Like, I do quite a bit of on-market sub two and creative, but it's never zero down, because you got to pay closing fees, you got to pay the commissions to the agent, and ideally you get a few dollars in the seller's pocket.
Yeah.
For example, let's just take $100,000 price point. 6,000 you got to have for the agent. Figure 1,000 for closing fees, maybe 1,500. And then you want to put $2,000 in the seller's pocket, so he walks away with something. I just made that up, right? But you're talking about 8 to 10 grand now. That's going to be cash at closing that you have to come with cash, which is fine, because now you take over, $100,000 or whatever, $90,000 sub two property with 10,000 in cash. Okay. And if you go to the channel, I've got a couple videos where I live demo that, where I talk to the agent and explain that. You got to be careful, because it's all about how you explain this to the agent, because a lot of them don't understand any of this. They don't know what subject to is. They don't know what creative financing is. And so it's new to them. So if you don't present it the right way, or if they're confused, they're not going to be motivated to present it to the seller.
Yeah. We try our best to try to present it as easy as possible.
Where I find it's helpful is, like, let's say, here's where it usually comes up. Let's say I'm talking to the agent, and the agent will say something like, "Oh, well, the seller can't go down to your cash offer of 80,000 because they have an existing loan." As soon as I hear that, I'm like, "Oh, sub two right now. Here we go." Yeah. What they're saying, hey, they would probably take 80 cash. I get 80's your number. In fact, 80's probably the market value, but because they owe 90, they can't sell it for 80 because they owe 90. Yeah. That triggers you to a sub two. So now, then I'll say to them, "Okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we pay 100? I'll take over their payment of 90, and I'll bring 10 to closing. And the 10's going to pay your 6,000 in commissions. It's going to pay all the closing fees, and it's going to put a few dollars in the seller's pocket." Well, your original offer was 80 cash, and now you're paying 100 for sub two. Yeah. You always can pay more if you're doing creative, because now you just took over a property that you now are on title and own with only 10,000 out of pocket.
Okay. I just figured that the seller would want to walk away with more than what the agent is walking away with.
This is typically a seller who can't sell a property because market value is less than what they owe. Yeah. So it's kind of like saying to the seller, "You're never going to sell it for 80. You're never going to sell this property because the market will pay you 80 and you need 90. Let's say, for example, this happened. Here's how you got to think about it. Mm-hmm. Let's say that the seller got an offer for 100 cash. The seller's walking away with nothing because they got to pay off the 90 loan. They got to pay the agent commissions and closing fees. Yeah. So the seller's already not walking away with anything if they got a full price offer or a $96,000 offer. Actually, 98. They would need a $98,000 offer, 6 to the agent, 2 for closing, 90 to pay off the loan. They get nothing.
They already agreed basically to coming out with nothing.
They're already planning on getting nothing.
Okay.
So all you're saying is, hey, instead of nothing, how about you walk away with $2,000?
Yeah, because I've been on the lookout from when I'm on Flipster, since we do this full time. Sometimes I'll take my time at the end of the day to go through zip codes that I like, and I look at how Flipster, it tells you the square footage. What is it? The deal cruncher. I even look at the bottom ones to see what they bought it at and what year they did.
Well, then you have sort of an idea if they have a mortgage on it, right? You can make some assumptions about what they owe. So where I like to use sub two with on market is I'll go to the oldest listings, the longest days on market, because those are sitting because they're overpriced, right? Otherwise they would have sold. If they were priced lower, they would sell. So they've been sitting out for 6 months on market. Or expired listings is another amazing list for creative. And then you call the agent and you're like, "Why isn't this property selling?" the seller can't come down anymore. Oh, well, what if I could pay more than what they're asking, right? Or what they're asking.
Okay, that makes sense. That's helpful.
FSBOs are nice as well. The reason why a lot of FSBO for sale by owner is because they're so tight that they can't afford the commissions. So they list it by owner, hoping that they can find a buyer and not pay the 6% commission. Why? Because they have a loan that they can't sell it and pay off the loan and pay commissions. So they go for sale by owner. So a lot of times when you're talking to for sale by owner, those are going to be amazing sub-2 deals. Especially right now, you're going to see a lot of opportunity for creative finance because high interest rates are going to make it harder for buyers to acquire properties, which means taking over people's existing debt is going to be a very common strategy. And sellers are going to be willing to sell at higher prices because they know they've got better interest rates. So for example, let's say that I'm a buyer and a seller they want 100,000 and they know they've got debt for 90,000 at a 4% interest rate. You know, a buy and hold investor that would have to get a new interest rate at 7%, 8%, which is coming, right? Or take over 4%, they're going to overpay to get into a 4% loan, right? Because their payment's going to be so much higher if they have to get new debt at 7 or 8% to pay off a 4% loan. Their principal and interest payment's going to be way higher. Therefore, they can pay more to buy into somebody else's loan. Hope that makes sense. Everybody see that? And you can wholesale that sub-2 deal. So once you put the contract together for sub-2, if you don't want it, another buy and hold investor or another investor will gladly pay a premium for that sub-2 deal. So then you just assign your sub-2 contract for a premium. Like you're going to get way more money for that. So you can even wholesale those.
What do you think the average sub-2 wholesale deal is?
Well, it's all about the numbers, right? It's all about what your buyer will pay. But the lower down payment, the less cash out, the more they're willing to pay. So the more the assignment fee you can get. Like, let's say it's a true zero down. You're just taking over the payment. Seller's not getting anything. There's no agents, zero down. You're going to wholesale that baby for a pretty dime because think about it. Another buy and hold person that can get into a zero down. All they have to do is pay your assignment fee. They're going to pay a lot for that.
I have a buddy. I sold him a house back in 2020. And he's going to be moving in January. I was thinking about suggesting sub-2 to him. He bought it for 175. He owes 148 on it. The house would sell all day long at between 2 and 205, maybe 210. How would I go about offering? Because I don't think he'd take less than 2. So
yeah. So what you have to do, it's a little tricky. So you look at what they owe and you look at what would be a number that would be an awesome deal for you. And what's the difference in what he owes and the number you're willing to pay? That would be cash in his pocket. But you'd have to come up with that cash at closing plus closing fees. A lot of my sub-2 deals, you know, I'll come up with all kinds of cash, but it's not all the cash. I'll do a sub-2 deal where I put 50,000 and I take over their $600,000 loan or whatever the numbers all add up to. So what's a good deal for you where you can get the cash outlay that makes sense and still take over their loan?
if I have the money, I can cut him a check and we can go to closing tomorrow if that's what he wanted to do. But if I didn't want to use my own money, like would I do private money, hard money?
Yeah, private money. You can't do hard money because hard money is
Okay.
going to want to be a first position.
Oh, okay, you're right.
There's an existing loan. So the existing loan's first position. But you could go to a private investor and say, hey, I got this great deal. You know, I need $20,000 in cash to put the deal together. I'll pay you X percent interest, 8, 10, 12% interest. And they come in with that cash down money. And then you take over the loan, zero out of pocket now for you because you leveraged private money. I mean, what's the exit on that property? If you were to do that, what would you do with it?
I'd keep it and rent it out because his payments are only $1,100 a month.
Mhm.
And in that neighborhood, houses will rent all day long for $1,700. I mean, hold it for a couple of years and I don't know, maybe refinance it and get something else.
Yeah, Bob Britta mentioned you could do a wrap. So a wrap would be where you create a second position that the seller would get. Let's say that he was okay to not get cash now, but he wanted to create additional equity in the deal. You could create a second position loan for, let's say, $25,000. The seller's the lien holder, and you wrap that around the existing loan. So now later when you sell it, you'll pay off the 148 to the lender.
Mhm.
And the second loan would be 25. I just, based on this scenario, that would go to the seller to pay off the second lien.
Right. Okay, cool.